Sorry, you guys. It seemed like I had some internet issues, which paused and messed up the recording. Anyways, I believe where I left off was talking about recalculating surfaces and how SketchUp tries to determine what type of surfaces or where you're going to want these surfaces. So that's why it doesn't always get it right. So sometimes we have to recalculate this or to have SketchUp recalculate a surface, and we do that by just going over an existing line. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I don't want that. And it looks like it did the same thing over here. So this is exactly what I mean. It's not sure, do we want a surface inside here? Do we want this entire surface enclosed? What exactly is it that we want? So by just drawing a line, any line, going over it, it's going to recalculate the space. And there we go. Now it's going to separate this surface from that surface, and then I can hit the delete key. All right. So now there is this issue. I forgot to pull this guy up. But luckily I have the slope of the roof right adjacent to it. So I'm just going to draw a line to divide up this surface, and then I can just pull this back just like that. Okay. All right. So now we have some cleaned up lines. Oh, I can go ahead and delete these lines now that I have my surfaces. I can go ahead and delete those lines. And if you really want to clean it up, you could delete all of these lines in between. Okay. And same with this one over here. Oh, no, never mind. I take that back. I'm not sure why. Let's draw a line right over it. Let's draw a line right here to recalculate it. Delete this. Huh. Oh, I know why. That's a rookie mistake. I'm sorry, guys. This object's grouped. That's why it's not connected to this. So let me explode this. Now I should be able to delete that line. There we go. Okay. All right, let's move on. So once we have all of our walls cleaned up, I'm going to triple click, right click, make group. And then I'll go ahead and edit, unhide last. And there we have it. Now we have the walls that are also angled to the actual, to the sloping roof. Okay. So that's how we would create the roof. The next thing I wanted to cover is the balcony space. So there's different ways of doing this. We can use the tape measure, and it really comes down to the type of balcony that you want. In this side, so I have two balconies that I'm going to have to create, one on this side and then one over here. So we'll do two different types. On this side, I'm just going to do these kind of half walls. So I'm going to do 6 inches over here. I'm going to offset or create a guide 6 inches away there, and then come over here and do another 6 inches. And then I'll probably have this wall stop, pull a guide right there. So now I'll use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to create a surface right there, create another one from this corner to this corner, and then another one from there to right there. And then I'll go back and delete the line that separates these surfaces so that when I click, I get one actual continuous surface. And then I'm going to go ahead and just pull this up. Now, guardrails, okay, or anything outside or even inside, anything that's supposed to prevent you from falling off the floor, guardrail, is going to be a minimum of 42 inches in height. Okay. So I will pull that up 42 inches. Now I will triple click, right click, make group. Let's go ahead and delete my guides. So that's the simplest way of creating kind of a balcony enclosed guardrail space. Over here, if you wanted to create a kind of a guardrail, like a glass guardrail, this begins to become a bit more time consuming. So what I would do is, it really comes down to the type of guardrail and the design and things like that. So I'll give you guys one example of a guardrail, of a glass one. And we're going to follow kind of the similar format of a 2-inch rail, similar to the one that we have for our handrail. So I'm going to pull a guide that goes in 2 inches. And you know what I'm going to do? We'll go 2 inches on this side. And I'm going to say that my guardrail is 2 inches thick. Go 2 inches on this side as well. So that means I'm going to have one post here. So I'm going to pull this up 42 inches and then triple click make group. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here and copy this over here. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll draw a line that goes from one corner to the other, but I'm going inside to inside here. Then I select the line and I'll hit divide. And then I'll pretty much just try to see what the distances are. So this is 2 feet 10. If I was to break this up into 4 different segments, or I could do 3 feet 10. So I'm going to go with the 2 feet 10 and a half. And that's going to divide up my line into different segments. And again, I like to kind of delete every other one because it makes it easier when I do pull a guide and go from there to there, and another one right there. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll take this guy right here, use the move tool, copy, and place it right at the center right there. Do the same thing over here for that one, and then do it one more time, copy it, and place it right there. At this point, I no longer need these lines. Now, you know what? I probably should have made these 1 inch smaller. So let's go ahead and edit, delete guides. Or what I'll just do is create a rectangle from the top here that goes all the way to the other side over there, and then just pull this up 1 inch. I'll go ahead and triple click, make group. Now I said that these should probably go 1 inch shorter so that the overall height is 42 inches. This one, because we did the posts 42 inches and then added another inch on top, means that my overall height is 43 inches, which is still fine because again, the minimum height is 42. Next, what I'll probably do is do a rectangle down here at the bottom, pull this up 1 inch and group it. Do the same thing down here. And let's just kind of speed this up. I'm going to pull this up 1 inch. Pull this one and just reference that one. Pull this one and reference that one. Triple click and make these groups. And then create a guide that goes up, say, 4 inches. Now I'll go ahead and select these and use the move tool and grab them right there. So I say 4 inches because that's the building code. You can't have anything, these opening, when it comes to guardrails or stairs, things like that, your opening cannot be larger than 4 inches. After 4 inches, then a toddler can kind of sneak their bodies, can squeeze their bodies in through there. And that's the last thing that you want. So let's go ahead and delete our guides. Once we have this, it's pretty much a matter of creating the glass panels pulling this out, say 1/2 inch, and making this group. Okay. Now, in case you've been wondering, why did I make these individually as opposed to copying them over? I'm going to show you guys why. If I copy this over here, you'll notice that it's a bit hard to see. Essentially, oh, here we go. Let's hide this. You'll notice that the glass doesn't actually end where it needs to. Okay. And this has to do really with just kind of, has to do with the math of having everything equally divided, except for the endpoints. So in other words, if we went from one corner all the way to the inside corner, then we divide that line up into 4, if we divided that line up into 4 segments, these guys here in the middle have to be centered in between those 4 divisions, whereas these outside ones were not. And so that just kind of throws this dimension from here to there off, and the same one with this one to this one off. These two, they're going to be the same, but it's usually from the last 2 that are always going to be off. So if we wanted to, we can just double click and pull this in here, and then copy this one over, because this one should be the same as this one. And now this one should be the same as the last one. There we go. And now I could go ahead and move and center this right there. And then edit, unhide last. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and copy this over, make sure I grab all of these pieces. Oops, actually, before I copy this over, I need to figure out where I'm going to place it. So I'm going to go 2 inches in. And now I'll go ahead and come back over here, select all these segments. Notice how much more work the glass balcony panel is, just because there's so much more detail. So I'm going to use the move tool, then copy, hit the right arrow key to make sure that I'm locked in, and then just click right there. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this panel here. However, I'm not going to make you guys sit through that and watch that. So I'm going to take a minute and just pause the recording, and then I'll come back once that's done. All right, so here I went ahead and finished the balcony up on top. When I did the divide, when we drew the line and then right click and hit the divide, I just made sure to try to get it to a segment that's very kind of similar in width to my side panels in here. This way it doesn't look like some panels are that much larger than the others. Okay. So then there you have it. That's how we would create a kind of a glass balcony. So we have glass balcony here, or just a simple kind of extruded wall balcony over here on this side. The next thing that I wanted to do is just cover what we call kind of hardscape. So any sidewalks, any concrete work that happens outside your driveways in particular. All of this stuff really helps to solidify the project to kind of a groundscape, so that it doesn't feel like your house is just kind of floating in midair, right? And it really goes a long way, especially when it comes to doing renderings and things like that. So the way I would add a driveway or any kind of concrete work is the same way we've done, essentially it's a floor outside. So I'll go ahead and, maybe I'll come out 6 feet on this side, and bring this, hit the right arrow key so it lines up right there. And then maybe I will Let's just double click over here on this side and then add a place to finish it off over here. So I'm using the guides to essentially map out where I'm going to create the concrete. Once I have that, I could either use the line tool and go around the areas that I want, or use the rectangle tool and say, I'm going to go from here to there, there to there, and then maybe here, something like that. And I'll go a little bit farther out like that, and go ahead and just delete the lines we don't want. And I'm going to push pull this up. Now the driveways are, the house still will sit slightly above any concrete work. So the floor is 6 inches. I'm going to set this up to 4 inches. Okay, this way that the door, there's always a little step. That has to do with puddling of water. If it's right at the same level, then water, even on a rainy day, can begin to seep inside the building and things like that. So we don't want any of that. So we'll go ahead and triple click, right click, make group. Now, if I wanted to, I don't know, let's see, maybe in the backside, I could add another kind of concrete path. Maybe this one's narrower, it's just 3 feet. And we'll go from here all the way over here and just push pull this up 4 inches. And make that a group. So you could go ahead and add however many kind of pathways, concrete pathways as you want. But I just wanted to go over, finalizing this piece with the driveways and with the concrete work. Okay. Now, clearly, these guys here are cantilevering really far out to the point where it's not even believable. It just looks like it's floating. And that I'll end up addressing that when we go over the leftover pieces from our incomplete cube. So we would bring that in. But we'll cover that afterwards. Now, the last thing that I want to do in this one tutorial is begin to make this feel like a completed exterior and interior building. Up until this point, I really haven't even touched on the fact that we have these lines that are kind of getting in the way, that don't really belong there. We wouldn't actually see them in kind of the real world, right? But they're there because of the way that we built the geometry. Now, what we don't want to do is explode everything and group it all together, because at this point, if we ever need to make a change to a wall, if we ever need to make any changes to anything, we still want to be able to have the freedom, the flexibility to keep things in their own individual groups so that we can make changes down the line. In this profession, you are constantly making changes, right? Even once the client says, yes, this is what I want. We have budgetary issues, we have contractors, we have building codes, and we have clients constantly changing their minds. So never get set on one kind of model, one kind of idea, because it's constantly changing, right? So we want to set up our model so that these objects can stay in their individual groups, but not appear as if it's modeled in a bunch of different, with a bunch of different kind of individual objects. So the way I'm going to do that is essentially using the hide tool with my lines. Where's a good example that we could kind of go over that? Well, we'll just go ahead and deal with it over here. So actually, no, let's pull this off to the side so we could talk about it first so it makes more sense to you guys. So I can double click inside the group. And remember, each wall or each surface is made up of these lines. We could actually hide the line, okay, so that the line is no longer visible, but it's still there, and it's still there because it's creating this surface, right? If we were to select the line and delete it, well, then the surface goes away. But we can select it and hide the line and do the same thing over here. Select this line and hide it. And so what we get is essentially the surface or the object without the actual bottom lines. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it is we're trying to achieve here. So if I was to double click inside here, I would select this line and right click, hide it, right? Do the same thing on this side, right click, hide. Do the same thing on this side, right click, hide. And while we're at it, I would also hide this vertical line because I want this wall material to kind of transfer over and have this feel like one big wall. So I'll select that line and hide it. Okay. Now the tricky part, the part that some students get confused with, is that you'll notice that it's kind of hard to see some of these lines. And so it's more than anything, you have to know, you kind of have to keep track of the lines that you're hiding, or at least know where to find them so that you could click on it and hide it. All right. So I just hid the lines, but you can say, see, they're still there, right? See over here, I still see the lines. What happened? Did I not do it right? And this is another part that a lot of students get confused with, is they do it and then go outside of the group and see that it's still there and then get confused that, oh, I did not do it. We did do it. We use the move tool and move this up. You can see we did do it. But remember, this group, the group of the floor, also has lines as well, right? So we not only have to hide the lines on this object, but we're going to have to do it on this object. And while we're at it, we're also going to have to do it on this object as well. Okay, so let's double click into the group of the floor and select this line and hide, select this bottom line and hide. Oops, not erase. Hide, do the same thing over here, hide this, hide this, hide this. Now I'm not going to go around just yet to do the entire building because I'm still just kind of wanting you guys to see how it's done. And there we have it. You can begin to see how this line has kind of gone away. Let's go ahead. I did not select. Oh, I did. Now we're going to do this bottom wall. Hide this. Hide this. Hide this. And then I would continue going on all the way throughout. There we have it. Now this is really bothering me. So let's go ahead, and that's because that's in this geometry. So I could hide this line. This line becomes a problem because this line runs from top to bottom, right? Now, if I hide it, that's what I get, okay? Now, it might not look like much, and I might be okay with something like that, but I did lose this line here, right? And that does make it look a bit awkward. So let me undo that. What I can do is go into this group and actually draw a line from here to there. Now, it doesn't matter that it's there because we have the balcony space right there as well that's going to kind of hide the fact that I drew a line there. But by drawing up a line, it's now divided up this line here so that I could select just the bottom portion, right click and hide. And while I'm at it, let's go ahead and hide this. And now go into the floor and hide the lines from the actual floor. And then we need to go into the wall below and hide this line. So there we have it. Look at that. Now it actually looks like one complete building. But when I click on it, that's still a group. That's still a group. The floor is still a group. My walls are still a group. Okay. So in this method, yes, it is a bit more tedious. It does take a bit more time, but it's a way to make it look like a completed project while still being able to have your own individual objects in their respective groups. Okay. Now, you're going to want to hide all of the lines on the outside. And then the other common place that people forget, let's hide the wall, the roof, is right inside here in the staircase. Okay. So make sure that you're also hiding this line. You're going into the flooring and hiding the top and bottom lines of the flooring, and then go into the bottom walls and hide the interior lines from the bottom walls as well. Okay. So that it looks much more consistent, and you're not seeing the individual lines, even though the geometry is still there, which I can't grab anymore, but it's still there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take a minute and go around this building and clean up all of the lines. But essentially, that's it for this tutorial. The second tutorial, we're going to go into the materials mainly, how to create materials, how to add materials, how to apply materials to our building. Okay, let's go ahead. And so if you have any questions, please, as always, don't hesitate to contact me.